You know, after over 3 months of pure farming this domain, this is the first time that I've ever obtained a feather that had both crit damage and crit rate. How willing are you to continue playing Genshin Impact? Less and less every day. Good day, everyone. So, 2.2 has dropped, and I figured I'd give my first day impressions as I'm wrapping up. As to be honest, there were quite a number of things I was rather surprised about. First, with the extra 4 wishes obtained from the tree, I actually had 60 Acquaint Fates and enough to get around getting a 5-star in terms of soft pity. So I decided to spend a bunch of those. Started off pretty nicely with getting a Kujo Sora, as I need another, with that one, 4 of her for her to be usable. Got a Zincho, which is nice, so I only need another 2 more of him. And then it started to trail off a bit from there. Got a Bennett, which is also nice. And then got a Constellation for my Diluc. Sorry, pal, still not going to use you. But having completed my disappointing wish session, was really hoping for a 5-star weapon I could have used. Decided to go check out the new Serentipod area, and it is absolutely fantastic. The scenery is frankly amazing. They really did make it feel like a sort of Japanese painting. They honestly did, I think, a fantastic job with this place. The only thing I would say is a bit disappointing is that's really the first area that you really get a proper good look at the sunset and the amazingly done water. Whereas the other areas, you don't really have a very good look at it. And so while it looks fine, it definitely feels lesser than the first area. I usually like to put my house in one of the later areas and sort of have themed areas leading up to wherever my house is. But this time, seeing as how the first area is significantly more scenic than the remaining 3, especially 2 and 3, I think I'll be placing my house in the first area this time around. Now, I do want to come back to this. As amazing as this place may be, there is an aspect to it that makes me feel not necessarily this zone, but a lot of the dungeons in this game in general are kind of a shame. But before we get into that, continuing on with the first day impressions, from the live stream I had heard about the floating platforms, which at the present time, honestly, I'm not totally sure I'll use. Not because I wouldn't use them. Floating platforms and being able to create floating areas would be fantastic. However, with how little load that you have in this game, topped with we still don't really have an actual staircase or anything that you could normally use to lead up to said platforms. I just don't really think I'll be using them at the current time. And just from the images that we saw from the live stream, I knew that there would be a few more furnishings than just that. But ho, there's a lot. Now, unlike myself, my sister had saved up a very significant amount of realm currency, and I think she said she spent around 20,000 obtaining all the new furnishing blueprints and so on. So for those of us who haven't exactly saved up much, maybe only 3,000, it may take us a while to get all those new furnishing goodies. Something I do find interesting about the new furnishing sets, which will grant us gifts from the characters, is that 2 of them, Yoimiya's and Kujosora's, are only for them. And so you're going to make that entire set for a whopping 20 Primo Gems. I'm also quite surprised in the Inazuman abode. It looks very nice, but it is actually quite small. At first, I was thinking that it was only the outside of it, which seemed smaller than the other estates. But going inside, you can see that even the beginning room is a decent bit smaller. And then having gone upstairs, you realize it doesn't have that upstairs indoor balcony that the other 2 estates do, which is a bit of a shame, as I usually use that as my library. But ignoring the smaller nature of it, it does definitely look very nice, and I do think I'm going to be going with this estate so far going forward, as I slowly work towards gaining all of these new furnishings. Next, of course, we have the new hangouts, which I'm definitely looking forward to, but think I'll probably try exploring the majority of the new island first, as this isn't really time-gated, and while the new island isn't either, especially considering that I don't actually know where the dungeon event that we're getting this time is going to be, I figure it's a better idea to clear this island out first. And the island so far itself is looking pretty nice. And this could just be my personal experience, but I'm a little bit disappointed with the fog mechanic as I've seen it. As having gone through the quest given to us by Catherine, all it did was limit my visibility, and so it didn't really make it feel like a different zone. My sister did tell me that it actually did teleport her once, so I guess that does happen somehow. But even though I did go off the beaten path a few times, it never happened to me, so honestly I'm not totally sure how that triggers. And so, perhaps rather strangely, having not gotten yoinked, I felt a little bit disappointed. But even so, the island looks nice. Looks like it's got a lot of stuff. Though it does feel rather odd that it just stops instead of just allowing us to continue with the quest. So I don't know if it's known when the remaining quests or quest for this island are going to come out, but hopefully it's soonish, as I would like to know what's going on with this island and whether these people are ghosts or just memories, seeing as Rue is the only person who actually interacted with us, which leads me to lean towards the memory side of things. There's also some new puzzle mechanics and so on. You can see that they've added basically an electro version of Mondstadt and Liyue's pyro torches thing. So in case you didn't notice, make sure to hit these with electro to unlock those few additional chests. At the present time, I'm still not quite sure what these bird statues do, and I'm assuming these areas with the bird statues surrounded by these particular rocks does something, but to be honest, currently, I haven't actually figured out what. But unless I'm missing something, I think that about wraps up my initial thoughts from day 1 of 2.2. For the most part, I'd say I'm pleasantly surprised, even if I found the fog mechanic a bit underwhelming. But before ending the video, I do want to just briefly talk about the one thing seeing the Inazuman Saren Teapot layout made me feel a bit disappointed over, was that the realization, I suppose you could say, of that MiHoYo for a lot of the dungeons, while I don't feel like they really live up to the name of dungeon per se, they're pretty bare bones, they do look very, very nice. And so in a lot of ways, at least going through it, you sort of forgive the fact that either there's nothing really much to do in them, or the only mechanic is just that you basically go forward, grab a Magatana, continue forward, grab a second, and continue forward, grab a third, and then walk towards a door, and it opens. But you don't think all that much about this while you're doing it because it looks nice while you're doing so. And the thing that makes me feel like this is a shame is that for a lot of these areas that MiHoYo actually has done a very good job at designing in a visual sense, we only do them like maybe once or twice, and then there's no point in ever doing it again. And we've talked before about the lack of endgame content, and something that frankly I think would be really cool and would also, I believe, make it somewhat easier on them would be to add, another endgame-like thing, something, a new Spiral Abyss that's hopefully not just Spiral Abyss 2.0, but the area itself would rotate through the dungeons that they've already made in the game. Because from my perspective, when doing, these endgame things to get as many stars as you can, to get all your primo gems and so on, instead of having, this every single time, wouldn't it be more interesting to cycle through the dungeons that exist in the game? And so, if they are truly never actually going to add any endgame content, something that I would like to see at the very least would be then to apply that to the Abyss we have currently. Because if we got to fight in these dungeon areas, and so it didn't look the same every single time, and so it sort of felt like we were in a different area, perhaps every month or every reset, by simply using the zones that they already have made in the game, could make it feel a little bit better. And once again, it just feels like such a shame that really the best places in the entire game, these domains, that are, at least in my opinion, drastically superior in visual quality than the open world experiences, you play through 2 or maybe even a single time, and that's it. So I'd really like to see them incorporate these domains and dungeons into some form of repeatable content. Even if it's not endgame, at least give us something repeatable to be able to enjoy these places more than once or twice. And with that, I think we reached the end of the video. How have your experiences been with 2.2 so far? Did the fog not really do much to you at all, or were you endlessly getting yoinked around? Have you done any of the hangouts yet? And if so, have you been enjoying those? Do you wish that instead of pointlessly time gating us, we could have just gotten the continuation of the quest after we finished the first one? And along with anything else you would like me to know, please do leave down below in the comments. Thank you for watching. Look forward to seeing you again next time, and hope you all have a great day.